Good evening. We're going to call the Finance and Budget Committee meeting of the Washington County Quorum Court to order. With that, I believe that Justice Secchi has agreed to do us the honor of prayer and pledge this evening. Justice Secchi?
I'm going to honor our Jewish community by praying in Hebrew and in English, if you don't mind, please. Baruch haba Hashem Adonai Elohim Eloheinu, Yeshua HaMashiach. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe. Your name is Jesus Christ, the Son of God, our Messiah. Father, in your holy word it says that Jesus is our good shepherd and he leads us in the paths of righteousness. And so we ask, Holy Spirit, that you would lead us in the way, the truth, and the life that is found in our Lord, that we may do that which is right, which is good, and which prospers everybody. And we pray in the name of Mashiach HaMashiach, Ben Elohim, the name of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Justice Secchi. With that, we'll move to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have any motions with regard to the agenda? I have a motion to pass the agenda by Justice Dean, second by Justice Lemming. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The agenda has been adopted. We'll move right into our monthly reports. Treasurer Hill. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Judge.
Good evening, sir.
4.1, Treasurer Summary. Finally, it's been a while, but the general fund the revenues were way over expenditures due mainly to the property taxes from the April settlement. Road was above expenditures, and jail was right even expenditures and revenues. Look at the second page of this report, 6,002 collectors unapportioned. See the revenues there, almost 105 million. That's what we received in total for property taxes for the month of April, but we get it in May. Of course, 80% of that goes to schools, about 8% goes to county general. And at the end of this report, we started with 97 million, ended with almost 112 million, again, due mainly to property taxes. 4.2, more property taxes. This just shows the county general, what they received in May was 7.5 million. And that's up 1 million from 6.5 the year before. And so far this year, we're almost 7% above last year. 4.3, the ARPA report. Not much activity at all this month. Still have 14.7 million in that fund. And through January through May, we transferred 286,000 to general for interest. 4.4, the 1 cent sales tax, brought in 922,000. That was almost 2% over last year. And for the year, we're almost 2.4% over 2023. And these numbers are actually for March. 4.5, the jail quarter-cent tax, brought in 1.4 million, and for the year, that's 155,000 money over this time last year. That's all I have.
Questions for Treasurer Hill? Justice Secchi?
Thank you. Hello, Treasurer Hill. I have a question on the 1 cent sales tax that we collect. It was brought to our attention that at the AC meeting, that any time the state gives incentives to businesses for coming to our state through tax benefits, whatever, they never really give it from their portion of the sales tax collected. They take it out of the county and city.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a local tax, it would come from the it would come off of our tax rolls. I
Do
mean,
you know-
state gets their little percentage of ours too, so,
So,
for collections.
when that happens, do you just take that into consideration? Oh, this is how much we didn't get because the state gave it away to somebody else? Or how do you
Honestly,
see
no,
it?
I don't. I've looked a few times, it's a couple $100,000, just, what you're talking about, maybe on tax incentives and stuff like that, but honestly, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to that.
Okay,
It's not enough I know smaller counties, they can really get hurt by stuff like that, big swings and stuff, but we can kind of absorb it, so
But it'd be nice
I
to
can't
get-
answer your question real well.
but at least you did, when you get a couple of $100,000, here or there,
Oh, yeah,
it starts adding up.
Yes.
And it's just one more thing that the state is doing to the counties without any regards to how it has an impact on us. And they're taking it from our
Yeah.
coffers and not their own. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Justice Dennis?
Thank you, Judge. Bobby, I wanted to ask a question, and of course, I kind of warn myself sometimes, be careful about asking questions. People find out how little you know. But on the sales tax, and you mentioned the percentages there, and I've always been never a favor of percentages for raises because the top gets a whole lot more than the bottom. And so when you're making 80%, I think you said for the school, who determines those percentages?
That's just the millage rates.
It's a millage rate, so who determines the millage? The people?
I mean,
The
schools have automatic 25 mills, and then the rest of them are voted on.
citizens? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I mean, the school districts they all have 25 mills to operate. But all of them have a lot more than that just due to elections, local elections where they raise their millage.
Okay.
So it's set by whatever millage is for that school district or county general or whatever. Ours is 4.3, and some of the schools are like 50 mills. I don't know. You got that look on your face, I'm not answering your question, so.
Okay, because, well, you said 80% goes to schools and 8% goes to the county general.
8%?
I thought that's what you said.
Yes. 80 schools, 8% to general, and
80 to
8%
the-
to cities, something like that, 8 or 9%.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, is who determines those percentages?
It's the voters, the millage. Y'all can set up to 5 mills without a vote. And that's what, you got your county millage, your city millages, school millages, it's all who votes on it. If they want a local millage rate increase, they'll vote on it, and that increases that. So it's, except for your base stuff, it's, above that, it's, vote by the people. It's
Okay.
not, that's how it's determined. The state or county doesn't, y'all do on the general fund for this county, but above that baseline, everything else is voted on.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Justice Eki?
Thank you. Rather quickly, I know when I first joined the court, was it your office that gave us a breakdown on the millage of how much goes to the schools, how much goes to,
Probably. I have that, and the collector has it.
okay. If it's you, would you mind giving us a copy so we can all see what the school districts
What
do?
exactly, just the breakdown?
The breakdown that you did before. Secondly, just a little bit more details. Springdale, 2 years ago, passed a millage increase for their school districts. They went ahead and passed it, and the voters voted for it, and I was shocked that they did because it increased everybody's taxes on that. But 2 years prior to that, or 4 years prior to that, they wanted a millage increase, and it was voted down to pay for teacher salaries. and the voters voted it down, and then they asked for it again, and the superintendent let all the teachers out so they could go vote for it, and they squeaked by and won it. So it is a voter determination. Thank you, Judge.
Of course, almost all millages went down this year, but as you can see, the property taxes still went up, so.
Any other questions for Treasurer Hill? Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Next up is the Employees Insurance Report. Mr. Angel?
Good evening. I love how bright it is in here now.
Yeah.
It's a good change. All right, well, we can go straight into the numbers on the cash flow. Our total cost was down month over month. We're looking at April numbers right now, but March, we were at $777,000. April, we went back down to about $634,000 on our total spend. Still pretty high year over year. But we're running more folks on the plan than we were last year also, so your total spend will go up. Last year, we averaged 549 employees on the plan. As of April, we had 574 on the plan. Our actual percentage of spend this year is fairly close, percentage-wise, to what it was last year. We ran 123% and change of expected claims last year. This year, we're at 124.62. So we've continued to struggle with some of those large claimants that we've talked about. But I do want to let the court know that of those 3 large claimants that really affected the last 6 months of last year and have affected the first 4 months of this year, the second highest on that is no longer on the health plan as of this month. So with that person no longer being on the plan, that will stop claims there, and we should see a difference as we push forward into June's numbers.
Questions for Mr. Angel? Justice Simons?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Angel, as far as the prescription rebates, is there a set schedule for when we can expect those, or is those just?
They tend to lag, 90 to 180 days behind. There's not a set schedule. Direct answer to your question is no. But usually we can figure once 6 months has passed, you should have gotten all the rebates on those fills.
Do you think between now and end of year, we'll see 1, if not 2 more of those?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We'll see 2 and possibly 3 because we have this lag here of 4 months. Okay. And, usually you average those about every 2.5 months to see those come in. So that's a great question. We're actually going to see more rebates through the second half of the year than we saw in the first half of the year.
Thank you.
Let me add one more thing to that, Justice. Unless they just hold them on us and we have a $600,000 rebate in November, which usually doesn't happen, but could.
Additional questions for Mr. Angel? Thank you, sir. I appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir.
Next up is the Comptroller's Report. Comptroller Sherman?
Good evening. Sounds louder in here without the curtains and stuff. So we're 42% through the year right now, so there's nothing that really pops out to me as far as budgets go. There's no extreme outliers as far as being over 42%. So I think we're good as far as spending-wise right now as we go through the year. Is there any questions on the first report? The second report there, the unappropriated reserve balance, we just posted the carryover that you guys voted on, the ordinance that actually tells, because Treasurer Hill, what he does is he gives his expectations, which he's usually pretty close, and then as we get everything posted, we say, okay, this is what actually rolled over. So there were some big numbers that added in. So the general fund so far this year with the salary sweep and the carryover, we've added 702,000 has been the change that we put in there. And then you can see the road fund is about 308,000, and the jail fund we added 980,000. A lot of that is because of the salary sweep. We're budgeting 70 extra positions, really vacancies that we hadn't filled. So when we sweep that back, it all goes into the unappropriated reserves. Is there any questions on that? One of the big ones there I will point out is the radio system sales tax. I think the treasurer got at the last minute last year, came in, so the expectation was small, didn't have that payment in there, so when that big amount came in, then it rolled over, so the 1.8 million on the bottom. And that's designated for the Motorola contract that you guys voted on. And we're coming to the end of that contract, by the way, too. It's about $450,000 a year is what we pay on that. So. Then I just wanted to, like I told you before, I was going to start adding a couple reports since this is the Finance Committee. So these next reports are actual labor costs for the county. So the base salaries is about 37 million, and then you can see there what the other ones add: the APRS and the FICA, health insurance match, life insurance, and workers' comp. So the total labor that I'm looking at when I think of labor is about 52 million. And then if you put that against our budget this year, which was 114 million, we're about 46%. So that's pretty good. Yeah, that's good. It's hard looking at the statistics to try to find out exactly where local government should be. I've seen as high as like 55%, and I've seen as low as like 35%. But I would say I always look at around 50 is what I would like. So I think we're doing good there. The bar charts, the pie charts there are just graphic representation. The next one of that breakout. Those percentages I'll caution you like APRS, we actually pay in 15.32% on every person's salary, but when you add those other fixed costs in there, the health insurance and the FICA match, and it actually, that's only 10% of our total cost, the APRS in labor. So even though we pay 15.2% of a person's salary. Is there any questions on that breakout of actual labor? Really what I'm getting at there is I just want to know how much labor overhead that we're running at.
Justice Hickey?
Thank you, Judge. I don't know if I got lost in translation or what, but you said 50% of labor cost, but then when I looked at the pie chart, it says base salaries is 71.6%.
Yeah, the base salary, no, when I'm saying 50%,
Okay.
I'm talking of the overall budget. So
Of the overall
labor,
budget.
everything that I associate with labor, we're running about 46%. 46% of the total budget is labor, what I associate with labor. Base salaries, matching FICA, health insurance, workers' comp, anything that goes into labor.
Goes into labor.
Right.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? The 71% is only base salaries of the total labor cost of when you look at labor.
Okay, that's,
Yeah. And
I was
that
a little
that
bit
figure,
slow. Okay, thank you.
that figure was
Thank you,
right.
thank you, thank you.
that figure was right on the money of the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Sure.
They said base salary should be about 71%, and then fringe and everything else should be make up the rest.
I want to say thank you. This is outstanding.
Okay.
And I appreciate it
welcome.
because you speak my language when you start breaking it down like this. Since I joined this court, what I've always heard is if we could keep labor at a target of 60%, we could pay for a total budget, we could pay for these raises. And it was always ignored, and then finally we started showing them, this is how we can afford it.
Right.
And so then we passed, it was a collaborative effort,
Right.
the historic pay raises that we did. So we're still below 60%. That
Yeah.
is outstanding.
And I would say
in
that-
my opinion.
I would say it's good too. I have nothing to do with that because I wasn't here. And that is you guys, in my opinion, you guys make the fiscal rules around here, so.
But I also know that we're going to have to increase certain positions because we can't hire anybody at such a low rate. So we're gonna have to be looking at raising income.
Right, and truthfully, where I'm getting on this is we can afford it.
Okay, it's good to know.
The
But is it
last,
sustainable? I mean, are we gonna be able to sustain this?
well,
based on-
that's what you get into when you look in the out years. You have to be, it's a little bit harder to judge, but this place is doing nothing but exploding up here as far as population. You see that the sales tax is up, and the property tax was up much higher than the sales tax, so it's only going up.
Okay, thank you.
The last pie chart there is actually just how base salaries broke out across elected officials. That's just a gee whiz, good FYI.
Additional questions for Comptroller Sherman? Thanks, sir. All right, now we're going to move on to the new business portion of the meeting. Item number 7, an ordinance recognizing and appropriating additional revenue in the amount of $228,470.06 in the Animal Shelters Projects Fund for 2024. If you guys remember, a couple months ago, I announced that the Howick Estate had left us additional funds in support of the animal shelter. This is accepting those funds and putting this in the special projects line item of the animal shelter budget. I know Director Harp's here. If you have questions for her this evening, she can certainly address any of those, but this is just us accepting that money and moving it to the budget. I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court the due pass recommendation by Justice Secchi. Thank you, Justice Secchi. I took some liberty there. Second by Justice Simons. Any further discussion on this line item, or on this, not line item, on this item? Public comments on item number 7. Seeing none, I have a motion to pass item number 7 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Secchi, a second by Justice Simons. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 7 will move to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation. Item number 8, an ordinance creating the position of the Commissioner of Public Buildings in the county judge's budget for 2024. Councilor Baker, would you like to give some background to this ordinance and tee it up a little bit?
Sure. I was looking through the statutes. We live under the Local Government Code, Title 14 of the Arkansas Code, and discovered that when we construct new buildings like the Emergency Operations Center, we are supposed to have a public building commissioner to oversee the work. It's at 1419-101, if anyone would like to look it up. It simply states, when a county court shall have made an order for the erection of any public building, it shall appoint some suitable person as Commissioner of Public Buildings who shall superintend the erection of it. And there's a few more sections to the code. It's fairly straightforward. His duties would include to superintend and direct the execution of the work, to see that the materials employed are good and the work is executed according to the contract, and to make report of the progress and condition thereof from time to time to the county court. So, simply put, we discovered that we are supposed to have a Commissioner of Public Buildings when we build a public building, and so we are recommending that we create that position.
Justice Pond?
Move to pass 8.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass item 8.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Pond. I heard second by Justice Dean. Any further discussion on this item? Justice Dean, did you have comments on the item?
No,
Okay.
I didn't, Judge.
You're right. Justice Lemming?
Thank you, Judge. Two questions. The first one, wouldn't a general contract, when you hire a general contractor, wouldn't he be able to do that, or is it got to be an employee of the county?
Well, interestingly enough, we're kind of prohibited by state law about how we can operate construction projects. So we have to operate under the CM agent. So we are the construction manager, unfortunately, under the laws of Arkansas.
Okay.
And so, I just want to tell the quorum court, we had a somewhat similar arrangement with the AWIN system. Buford Goff was a consultant that came in and helped us make sure what we were asking from Motorola and what we were paying for is what we were getting. And so I think there's some value to this in the county to make sure somebody's speaking the construction language, somebody's there on site, somebody's ensuring we're getting what we're paying for and what we're expecting.
Okay, I'm good with that. I just wanted to ask about the general contractor. This job will end whenever the building's done and signed off on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank
This
you.
is not a permanent position. This is something that's going to support our construction project over the next few months. I will say that the construction law that the county has to follow, we are the only governmental agency that has to do it that way. Schools, universities, municipalities, everybody else can do what they call CM, construction manager at risk, which means we hire that construction manager, and that construction manager essentially fulfills this job role. That is one of the things we're going to get with our state legislators before the next session and try to get that law changed, because it's very punitive to the counties. We don't understand why we were left out of that. The CM at risk is how every other agency's doing these construction projects, and for some reason, counties aren't eligible for that. It's a very unfortunate deal, because we have great contractors up here in this part of the state that could very much do that. They do those projects all the time for other governmental agencies. So we'll see, and we'll certainly be corresponding with you ladies and gentlemen on this horseshoe to try to maybe support us in that endeavor with our state legislators as they go back down to the regular session next spring. Justice Coger?
Thank you. I just have a couple of things. I think when Councilor Baker was reading off the statute, she said, when the county court has made an order for the erection of a building, has that order been made? Is that not correct?
Ms. Baker?
The county court is the judge.
Right. Has he made an order for that?
We are building an emergency operations center.
I'm sorry.
We are building an emergency operations center, so yes, yes.
Has he made an order? Because you said the statute said when the county court shall make an order.
I haven't filed an executive order. I've signed contracts for it.
My next question is, how are we funding this from the ARPA fund when you're talking about a state statute that has nothing at all to do with the ARPA fund? I mean, what justification are we taking this from the unappropriated reserves in the ARPA fund?
Because that building is being funded by ARPA. The Emergency Operations Center is being funded by ARPA.
So are you only talking about the Emergency Operations Center? You're not talking about jail expansion in this, for this building, Superintendent?
The law dictates that we need it for new construction of new buildings. So this position will facilitate that for the Emergency Operations Center. Now, when we go to hire this position, I will hopefully get somebody with the experience and expertise to oversee the COVID mitigation project at the jail also. But to satisfy the state law is specific to new buildings.
Okay, so this 70,000, or just about 70,000, is for the remainder of this year. Does that mean that next year is going to be 140,000?
No.
What does that mean?
That means that this person will work off of what might essentially be a time and materials engagement, if you will.
Per the hour?
Mm-hmm. And so I think, to be honest with you, the 50,000 base salary was our reasonable guess for the remainder of this year. Of course, we're going to try to do that as efficiently as possible. We're not going to spend any more money than we have to, and then we'll reevaluate this next year as we move forward.
Okay, and I thought when Treasurer Hill gave his report that all the ARPA money had been allocated already. We have allocated it for the Emergency Operations Center.
Mm-hmm.
So is your thinking that that covers this, that allocation?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion on item number 8.1? Any public comments on item 8.1?
This particular, can you hear me? Okay. I have a comment about this being not a permanent position, but just a temporary position. When we're doing any erecting or refurbishing of public buildings, We do refurbishing a lot. We refurbished in here. Would this be considered refurbishing the quorum courtroom? Would that be considered that we, under the Commissioner of Public Buildings, would they need to also superintend over such construction as that? What is the, I'm not asking a question, what is the parameters of the refurbishing a public building? We need to set that out, because this may be a position we need to keep year-round and have it as a salaried position on the county books. If we're being by the law of the state of Arkansas, we need to really consider that and put the parameters on it. And if the public building and the refurbishing using the ARPA money is not going to be finished in 2024, the money will have to be appropriated for the Commissioner of Public Buildings out of the ARPA money before the end of the year. The money has to be appropriated to the use of it and then spent by 2026. So we need to fine-tune some details in here, if you ask me. We need a little more clear understanding before we pass it. Thank you.
Additional public comments? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item 8.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Pond, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 8.1 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 9, an ordinance amending ordinance 2024-10. If you guys remember, a few weeks ago, we passed an ordinance which was a cleanup for the grant funds, which essentially closed out those items for 2023 and reallocated them so they can continue to be used for 2024. There was an error in that original ordinance that you can see that's redlined here in this ordinance. Line number 28 had the wrong amount on it by $7,000. And so this is just an ordinance to correct that previous ordinance to reallocate those grant funds so they can be used in the current year. Questions or motions? I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Dean. Any further discussion? Any public comments on item number 9? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 9.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ricker, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? The item will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 10. An ordinance amending the jail budget for 2024 and for other matters pertaining thereto. Is there anyone from the Sheriff's Department that would like to speak to this and tee it up a little bit for us? I believe we have a little bit of insight into this from an email a few weeks ago from Sheriff. Chief Deputy Tabor.
Thanks, Judge. Good evening, everyone. So if you remember last month, like you heard the comptroller say, there was about almost $1 million pulled back in the salary sweep. And basically what we're asking is $365,000 of that be reallocated back to the sheriff's office in the jail maintenance budget. So it's not really new 2024 money. It was money that was budgeted to us back through the budget process, pulled back, and then we're asking for it back for this remodel. I'm calling it a remodel. It covers a couple of things. As you know, Central EMS moved in our facility close to a year ago now, and that left some vacant space, and we're going to add some offices in that vacant space. Obviously, this building's 20 years old. We've grown, our property evidence sections have grown, as you can imagine, in 20 years. And so we're looking to add some space there. Also, our transport division, which is the ones that, you know, they move people to court, to doctor's offices, go to California and get people. That division's grown, and we're looking to add some space there. And then our front lobby, as you can imagine, gets a whole lot of traffic, and it's to do some remodeling in the front lobby and secure our front lobby area. It's not hardened in any way as far as the glass or the counters or anything like that, and it's this would be to harden, revamp the front lobby and harden that space where all the records employees sit. When Councilor Lester done this ordinance, he sent it to sent it to me for review, and I missed something. If you'll look at Article 1 on the ordinance itself, it says jail maintenance and operation fund to other professional services. Actually, we would, if someone would entertain the thought of making a friendly amendment, we would like to change that to where it says to the Maintenance and Operations Fund, Construction in Progress, and then change that account number, the last four digits would change to 4006, which is capital construction. And what that does is that lets us pay for everything out of that account. Instead, if it gets moved to other professional services, we'll have to come back to you to move some more of it to supplies and those kind of things. So it just makes it, in reality, it just makes it simpler, and we don't have to come back to you.
Justice Secchi?
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to amend.
I have a motion to amend by Justice Secchi, a second by Justice Pond. Any discussion on that amendment?
Accordingly, yes.
Justice Lemming, I'm sorry, I cued your microphone by accident a while ago, but do you have any comments on the amendment?
Not on the amended, it's another
Justice
question.
Simons, comments on the amendment? Anybody raise their hand, comments on the amendment? With that, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to amend per Chief Deputy Tabor's account. Motion made by Justice Secchi, second by Justice Pond. So sorry. All those in favor? Those opposed? The amendment carries. Justice Wilson?
I'm fine with everything, but before the vote, I was going to ask if we could re-articulate the amendment. Not re-articulate it, but articulate it again.
Yeah.
To be clear on what we're voting
I was afraid you were going to ask me to do that. Counselor, you got better notes than I do?
So if I heard this correct, on line 26, and then we'd strike out other professional services, and it's the construction in progress line item,
That's correct.
which would be 4,006.
That is correct.
On line 27, which would be 30170127.4006 for 2024.
Yes.
Justice Lemming?
My question is the 365 going to do all this?
Yes, we got two bids. One of them was a little bit under that, and the other one we got was like 1.4 million. I mean, it was like quadruple. So yes,
I heard that number somewhere the other day. And
the bid we got that was I don't remember the exact number, somewhere around 3 for just the construction portion. It was from a construction company that we use very regularly. They're at down there all the time. They're familiar with our systems and everything. So we believe that since they are familiar with the facility. I'm sorry?
It should be multi-clip.
Right, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Justice Simons?
I move that we pass number 10.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass as amended to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Simons, second by Justice Dean. Further discussion? Questions? Public comments on item number 10.
Hi, Sarah Moore, Fayetteville. I appreciate that it was pointed out that there was $1 million turned back due to personnel, and so this had been budgeted before. But you guys are the fiduciary. I mean, oftentimes the quarter-cent sales tax for the jail does not cover the operations. We have an MOU in place with all of the cities in Washington County that they per capita cover the overage. I think that taxpayers have really said resoundingly within our communities that we feel like we're quite taxed. And so my concern is, as was mentioned by J.P. Lemming, that we do know that cost overruns have happened with almost every project. And so while he says it's $365,000 right now, are you going to prevent him from coming back to this body with overruns? Because then you would have incompleted projects, and that would be additional tax savings that won't happen for both our taxpayers, but also those relationships with the cities that we've held hands with those MOUs. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comments? Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass as amended item 10.1 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Simons, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 10.1 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 11, an ordinance anticipating and appropriating revenue in the amount of $1,081,999.92 in the Crisis Stabilization Unit Grant Fund for 2024. We have received an updated contract from the Department of Human Services for the 2024-2025 year for the CSU, and this is us accepting that money and getting ready to expend it. Before anybody gets too excited, we have had zero luck finding a service provider for the CSU after a lot of hard work. So that is not looking very promising. But what DHS has advised us to do is to go ahead and accept this grant, and we'll return any unused money to DHS if we don't find a service provider or that service provider doesn't start as of July the 1st. Justice Ecke?
I'd like to make a motion that we pass this on to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, second by Justice Dean. Do I have any further discussion? Justice Coger?
Thank you. Well, this is great to have this money here, but could you tell us, Judge, what efforts you're making to try to find a director for the CSU?
Yeah, we're talking to service providers that
Okay.
might be interested.
Here in Northwest Arkansas or from somewhere else, or? How do you, right now, you don't have anything concrete, though, that you can share with us, or even?
Nope. It's a horrible financial model and nobody wants to touch it. And that's just the reality of it. Nobody wants to do it. So we're working very hard to try to see if there's any mitigating things we can do as a county to get somebody interested in it. I'll be quite honest with you, we're kind of back to square one with the CSU and the concept of it here in this county, and if it's something that's going to take off.
I have one more question. Do you think, you're talking about the money, that no one wants it, the CSU, you know, I can see how it would not make a profit. But if the county supplemented the state, which what the state has, we could still do that.
Yeah, we were trying to get away from that, but I can understand that. Here's the issue with the CSU. The state is under constant pressure, applying constant pressure to us as counties and to the service providers to be profitable and self-sustaining. The model of the CSU never is self-sustaining. That's the whole point of the CSU. And so, you know, I've had service providers tell me that initially the numbers might work if we worked really hard at it, but they're not interested after the state continues to threaten them with removing that funding or cutting the funding, because they're right at that margin right now at $90,000 a month. And the state constantly continues to try to tell us that they want them to be self-sustaining and transition out of the CSUs financially.
Well, would you say, Judge, that with the mental health court, they would need to rely on something like the CSU, that's the mental health court that we're getting set up?
I don't know that for sure. I think there was definitely the possibility of having a symbiotic relationship there, but we're not even close to making the CSU work, ladies and gentlemen, with the numbers that we're seeing, the utilization. It's not even close. The mental health court will not solely sustain the CSU.
Okay, one more question. So when you've had talks with people about taking over the directorship of the CSU, have they said, well, Judge, I would take it over if we had this much more money?
No.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
They said, I don't want anything to do with it. But alas, we're here to accept some money and hold it for a while. I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Ecke, second by Justice Dean. Are there any public comments on item number 11.1? Seeing none, we're going to take it up. I have a motion to pass by Justice Ecke, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item number 11 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 12.1, an ordinance anticipating and appropriating additional revenue in the amount of $125,273.12 in the Law Enforcement Grant Fund for 2024. We do this quite regularly. This is our SCAP grant. Justice Lemming?
I'll make a motion to send it to the full quorum court to do pass. I'll second.
I have a motion to send to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Lemming, a second by Justice Ricker. Any further discussion? Justice Coger?
Yes, thank you. I will always speak out against this grant. I don't believe we should be participating in anything that targets one group of people that leads to their detention. We've had people from the immigrant community come and tell us how harmful it is, how they fear it, how they fear it makes them distrust law enforcement. But we don't listen to them, and they're the community that's impacted by it. So my second point is the fiscal year state criminal alien assistance program was opened 11 days ago on May the 30th. So I don't know how we came up with this amount that we've got in the ordinance tonight, but here's an email from Mr. Joseph Hustard, who is a senior state policy advisor for the Bureau of Justice Assistance. And he says at this stage in the 2024 application, any monetary amount listed would be an estimate. So how is it that we're estimating how much we're getting yet we're passing an ordinance on that when we don't know. The Justice Department won't make a determination on how much money it will be awarded until after the end of the grant period, which is July 29th. And then they collect all the information and send it to Homeland Security. And they go through and decide how many of the inmates that we submitted, how many were eligible. And to be eligible, you have to have been there at least 4 consecutive days and been convicted of at least 1 felony or 2 misdemeanors. So I don't see how we can do this without having that number. And where did this number come from?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
We have a very talented grants administrator. Her name's Dr. Bridget Russell. And she has requested this ordinance be brought here tonight and that we pass this ordinance.
I tried to talk to Dr. Russell. I guess she's out of town this week.
I haven't caught up with her this week. I'm not sure if she's in the office or not.
So anyway, I make a motion that we table this because it's not a certain amount. We don't know how much we're gonna get and why I think that we should not be passing this. And for the other reasons too, about ethically, that we should not be doing it. That's my motion.
Are you tabling it forever? Or you want to postpone it for a certain length of time?
I would postpone it until October 2024.
Okay. I have a motion to postpone until the October 2024 Finance and Budget Committee meeting?
Yes.
2024. I have a motion by Justice Coger. Second by Justice Hires.
And I request a roll call vote.
Any postpone? Discussion upon the postponement? Justice Simons, you got discussion on the postponement? Anybody with discussion on the postponement? We're going to take that up. I have a motion to postpone until October by Justice Coger, second by Justice Hires. Mr. Allen, will you please call a roll?
Justice Wilson? No. Justice Simons? No. Justice Bowerman? No. Justice Ecke? No. Justice Dean? No. Justice Washington?
Yes.
Yes. Justice Coger?
Yes.
Yes. Justice Dennis? No. No. Justice Hires? Yes. Justice Rios Stafford? Yes. Justice Lemming? No. Justice Ricker? No, sir. No. Justice Pond? No.
Motion fails. Now we're back to the original motion. I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court by Justice Lemming, second by Justice Ricker. Justice Simons?
Thank you, Chair. If I remember, and I'm stretching back about 6 months, but I had a conversation with Sheriff Cantrell, and during that conversation, it was my understanding that we have a delay and some lag, so it's very likely that this amount, this $125,273.12, is not pertaining to the most recent data that's been submitted. At one point, we were months, maybe even years behind schedule. So we were receiving these SCAP grant funds from data that was sent and processed months, if not years prior. So it's very likely that that's exactly what the case is here. That this $125,273.12 is a figure that's based off of data that's already been sent in, that's months, if not longer old.
Justice Coger?
Yes. First of all, the grant period ended in on July 1st of 2023, last year, for this fiscal year, 2024. And this question is for the county attorney. Is it legal for us to pass an ordinance like this based on an estimate?
We do this all the time. And so if there is if we've gotten if we're anticipating money, we've received some written notification of an amount. These numbers don't come from us, or they're not created by the county. And so at some point, and I'm sure if Dr. Russell were here, she could give you the document or tell you where this number came from, but this would be something that we were told is we're anticipating because this is the amount that we're going to receive.
Okay, well, I talked to the Department of Justice, and they said no, which is an estimate. So I'm going to vote against this. I don't think it's a good idea, and thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion on item number 12.1. Public comments on item 12.1. Seeing none, we're going to take up the question. I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court by Justice Lemming, second by Justice Ricker. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? No. The motion carries. Item 12.1 will move to the full quorum court. Item number 13, an ordinance anticipating and appropriating additional revenue in the Drug Court Grant Fund for 2024. This is a drug court grant fund put out by the AOC. We get this quite regularly, and you can see the detail here of what we use those grant funds for in support of our work of our drug court. Comments or motions? Motion to pass to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Lemming, second by Justice Ricker. Any further discussion? Any public comments on item 13.1? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item 13 to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation by Justice Lemming, second by Justice Ricker. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 13 will move to the full quorum court with a due pass recommendation. Item number 14, an ordinance amending the animal shelter budget for 2024 and other matters pertaining thereto. We received notice by the Department of Community Corrections that they will no longer be participating in our program to send female inmates down to our animal shelter. This leaves us with the need for some janitorial, some kennel cleaning, and things like that. This appropriates that money to the animal shelter so that they can move forward with getting some more support staff. Justice Ecke?
Thank you, Judge. I want all of Washington County to know that this is a state strong-arming us again. You know, they decide, no, we're not going to provide you with inmates, so therefore we're left holding the bag and having to appropriate $72,938.76. Thank you.
Justice Coger?
Thank you, Judge. Is this just for, so this is for the remainder of 2024. Does that mean it's going to be 146,000 or so for next year to fill these positions?
Yes.
And yes, and what is the hourly rate?
$16.36.
Okay. And if I may, I'd like to respond to what one JP just said about them, okay, I'd like to respond to what the judge just said.
Okay.
Okay, so I talked to Donna Tyler at the Department of Corrections, and she says the reason they're having to pull these workers is because they're losing staff left and right at the center because of the unstable situation there about employment. That's why they're pulling them.
And the state holds the keys to correct that.
So I suspect that this is just one of the first of many hidden costly consequences that we're going to run across about the closing of this CCC. And that's why I had my ordinance for the feasibility study last week. Thank you.
Thank you. Justice Lemming.
Can the sheriff's office take folks down there to work release?
I know, especially in here now, I don't need it. So I'm not sure who's been doing the animal shelters, but we have state inmates that are 309s that are actually state inmates assigned. And I don't know if that's who was doing it. That's not who was doing it.
The female inmates from the Community Corrections Center down here on College were doing it.
Okay, so let me just talk about that for a second then. So they are state inmates, I don't know what they're called. But those we have at the sheriff's office, we are short now because, you know, they mow the grass, they do the maintenance in the bill. I mean, some of them work on cars, and we're short now, and we've been trying to get more, and the state just says they don't have them. I'm not sure what the problem with that is. So for our actual state inmate 309s to go over there, I would say we don't have the staffing or the manpower to do that. I can't speak very knowledgeable about community service. Obviously, we have people come in that do community service, you know, that pick up trash and all those kind of things, and I'm not really clear on who sets. I know when picking up the trash, the state actually pays us very small amount per hour for them. So I don't know that we'd want to give up that money. So I say all that to say, I'm not sure. We'd have to dig into it and see.
Director Harp reached out to the Sheriff's Department, and we went through this with them, and I think what we were told was, and the Sheriff's Department's very hospitable, I want to thank them for everything they do, that right now the timing's not good for the 309s. It might open up in the future, and of course we would welcome that, but right now, for the next little foreseeable future, we're going to have to try to get some outside help. I have failed to even obtain a motion for this particular ordinance, and so we're out over the skis on debate. I have a motion to pass to the full quorum court the due pass recommendation by Justice Secchi, a second by Justice Dean. Further discussion now? Public comments on item 14.1.
Sherry Main, Fayetteville, Arkansas. On the first ordinance that you passed tonight was the very charitable contribution of the $228,000 from the Howick Family Trust, and that was to be appropriated to the animal shelter budget for 2024. We have this money. I know it's earmarked by ordinance to the other improvements line, other than buildings, for the animal shelter projects fund budget. We have this money, we could use it unless there is any earmarked projects right now at the animal shelter. So this money for 2024 could be appropriated for that instead of from the unappropriated general fund. That's just an idea, that we could do that this year when it's only a half of the year. And then in the budget preparation for 2025, it would have to be added at the total amount of the, whatever it was, 142,000 or whatever it was for the full year. It would have to be considered then under the employment for the extra hires. Just an idea.
Public comments. Councilor Lester, did you have a clarification for us?
That money cannot be used for this. That money was, there were specific requests with that money when it was left by the trust, and there were certain things that it could be used for, and this is not one of those uses that they deemed eligible, and so that money cannot be used for this purpose.
Thank you, Councilor. We have a motion to pass item 14.1 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Secchi, second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Item 14.1 will move to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation. Item number 15, an ordinance amending the county attorney budget for 2024 and for other matters pertaining thereto. Councilor Lester, would you like to tee this up a little or give feedback on this item, sir?
Last week, Washington County was served with a federal lawsuit by J.P. Koger's organization and Ms. Moore regarding the use of some ARPA funding. It's kind of complex. There are a couple different things going on here. And so given that, it was really you all are the ones that were the target of that lawsuit, as it directly calls into question the action that you've taken with regard to the ARPA funding. So we're asking you to appropriate an amount of money that allows us to provide the best representation we can for you, which, as you know, is going to be probably a little bit more complex. In federal court, things move a little bit differently, a little bit faster. There is always the potential, since Councilor Baker and I have been your attorneys and provided advice on ARPA funding, that we could be called as witnesses, which would disqualify us. In addition, there's some claims that are also going to bring in the AAC risk management attorneys on this. And so I just want you all to be prepared for, it could be something that we're able to get dismissed pretty quickly. It may not be, but we've got to be prepared. And given the timelines of court, it's not always feasible to get to a point where we can come back and ask for more money if our bill gets to that point. So this will allow us to represent you on that. And any money that's not used for this particular litigation will be returned to the general fund.
Justice Secchi?
Thank you, Judge. I'd like for us to allocate as much money as we need to beat this lawsuit because I am sick and tired of being sued by the same JP and having our taxpayers pay for it. And so I would like to appropriate the full amount that we can to defend this court against this rogue JP. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we pass this to the full quorum court and do pass recommendation.
I have a motion to pass by Justice Secchi.
Second.
Second by Justice Dean. Justice Dean, did you, okay. Justice Coger?
Well, Justice Hires was first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Justice Howard?
I just find it very inappropriate, the name calling and finger pointing that's happening in here right now. I have a problem with it.
And I want you guys to understand that as chair, I try to preserve civility as long as I can. But guys, we are in uncharted waters that a sitting member of this body would sue the county. And so I have to think that there's some open interpretation and comments that can be made here. You can certainly you can ask for a vote to overrule the chair. I heard nothing out of bounds of what Justice Secchi was saying. I think that's factually what's going on here. Justice Coger?
Yes, thank you very much, Judge. First of all, that rogue JP has won all 3 of her FOIA cases.
You did not.
Wait, that's it. That's okay.
So talking about this ordinance that's before us right now, we as JPs of the Washington County Quorum Court, we're charged with being good stewards of taxpayer dollars. So first of all, I want to say I'm proud to be associated with AJRC. I'm a co-founder, but I resigned from the board and as director in September of 2022 before I took office. The only way I stand to profit from this lawsuit is that the court rules that the county's using ARPA money illegally and we don't have to pay that back. So first of all, the final rules from the U.S. Treasury Department says Treasury presumes that the following capital projects are generally ineligible. Construction of new congregate facilities to decrease the spread of COVID-19 in that facility. I'm going to pass these out. And furthermore, I have here a letter from, hold on, back in January of 2022, Lindsay Holman, the Holman Estate.
Just a second, Justice Coger. Was it Justice Wilson? Or who? Justice Wilson?
Is it appropriate to litigate this entire matter this evening?
No, sir. Justice Secchi, do you have something to speak to the merits of the Justice? I'm so whoa, Justice Coger, do you have something to support the merits of the, or
Yes, I do.
to debate the merits of the?
Yes, I'm trying to do that, Judge. So the Arkansas Association of Counties wrote a letter to the Sheriff Helder and said, per the policy, Washington County will have to will be required to reconsider the project. That's talking about the jail expansion. I have copies of those too. And then I have here.
Justice Wilson? I agree. Justice Coger, do you have anything to the merits
Yes, I do.
or the debate of this? You have one more chance before we have to remove you from the floor.
Thank you. Here's an email that Deputy County Attorney Baker sent earlier. It says, speaking about the use of ARPA funding, a new larger public facility for the purpose of increasing the ability to socially distance generally would not be considered a reasonable proportional response.
Justice Secchi, Justice Coger, I'm sustaining his point of order. Justice Secchi, you now have the floor.
I wish to appeal your ruling, Judge.
Okay. I have an appeal of my ruling. We had 2 points of order from Justice Wilson not to litigate this here this evening. I've sustained that and removed the floor from Ms. Coger. A yes vote will confirm my decision. A no vote will overrule me, and we'll give the floor back to Justice Coger. With that, all those in favor of confirming my ruling? Yes. And those who want to give her the floor back, say no. No. The ayes have it. Justice Secchi, you have the floor. Will you please re-cue your mic? I might have turned it off by accident.
No, that's fine. I believe that there is a motion and a second on the floor. I think we're ready to vote to pass this on to the full quorum court. Thank you, sir.
Any public comments on item number 15.1?
still on Riches Road in Fayetteville. I do have a comment that I would like to make. This is coming out of the general fund, unappropriated reserves, or tax dollars. For one, I don't think it's fair the taxpayers have to pay for the decisions the quorum court makes. We have a county attorney, we have a deputy county attorney. If they have to recuse themselves from the lawsuit, I don't understand why, but they've represented the quorum court in other lawsuits. We need to use in-house on this. There's case law based on this. J.P. Deacons is a CPA, and in his background should have known the consequences of using ARPA money for unauthorized uses. I read the final decision from the money, getting so much money, $42 million, and using that money at a county level. We should have had an opinion from an attorney before this money was used, based on the ARPA rules. Now the cart's kind of backwards, and we're dealing with that now from the decisions of this body, and the taxpayers are going to have to pay the consequences of that. So in saying that, I think the county judge emergency's budget needs to be used for this. $300,000 has not been touched this year, which is budgeted. Half the year is over. We haven't used any of it. Who's to say we won't have an emergency? But if this is deemed an emergency, to defend your decisions on this court, use the county judge's emergency budget. Don't use the taxpayers' funds. Our budget is going to be unsustainable for 2025. It is getting way out of hand, and I'm very concerned about it. The budget process will be starting soon, and it will be a big, big eye-opener to all of you. These numbers add up. I have a bookkeeping and a tax preparation background. I'm an enrolled agent with the IRS, and this is just going to be unsustainable. Thank you.
Public comments? Seeing none, we'll take up the question. I have a motion to pass item number 15 to the full quorum court with the due pass recommendation by Justice Secchi, a second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? No. Mr. Allen, will you please call a roll?
Justice Wilson. Yes. Yay. Justice Simons. Yay. Justice Bowerman. Yay. Justice Ecke. Yay. Justice Dean. Yay. Justice Washington. No. Justice Koger. No. Justice Dennis. Yes, sir. Yay. Justice Hires. No. Justice Rios Stafford. No. Justice Lemming. Yay. Justice Ricker. Yes. Yay. Justice Pond. Yes. Yay.
That item passes and will move to the full quorum court. Justice Simons?
Thank you, Chair. I would make a motion that items 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, and 14 be added to the consent agenda and passed to the quorum court on account that all of those items were passed unanimously.
I have a motion to pass items 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, and 14 to the full quorum court. A motion to add those items to the consent agenda by Justice Simons. I have a second by Justice Dean. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Items 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, and 14 will be moved to the consent agenda. Final item on the agenda tonight is public comment period. We have a 12-minute public comment period with a limit of 3 minutes per individual. Public comments.
Thanks, Judge. I just want to say a couple things about SCAP. It's titled a grant, but it's really not a grant. Typically grants, you get money, then spend it. This is really what it is a partial reimbursement. For people that are in jail, we get partially reimbursed our costs for that. It's very similar to the way the state partially reimburses us for people sitting in jail waiting to go to the Department of Corrections. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that it's called a grant for some strange reason, but it's really a partial reimbursement. And then, Judge, I want to make a comment about something J.P. Koger said earlier, and I'm not quoting, but basically she said something to the effect of, we shouldn't be getting paid when we target a certain group. I don't know who she's referring to as we, but I've been involved in law enforcement in this county for 40 years. I think the agencies in Washington County are very professional. I'm not aware of any of them targeting any group except one, people that commit crimes. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Chief Deputy. Public comments.
Sherry Main, Riches Road, Fayetteville. I just want to make one comment that I believe since we're adding money to the budget we can't sustain, let's go ahead and hire a nonpartisan parliamentarian for the hearings of this body. People are not being treated fairly. JPs can speak out to the audience and not direct their comments directly to the judge, as people sitting in this seat are supposed to direct their comments directly to the judge. I've been called out several times. At the last meeting of the county services, particular JP spoke for 10 minutes, directing her comments directly at the audience. She was preaching to the choir, basically. And for what reason, I don't know. Why a point of order wasn't called, why the judge didn't intervene, I don't know. But it's certainly not fair, and we need a parliamentarian who is going to go by the rules of the JP parliamentarian rules of a meeting. And I just think they need to be fairly to everyone, not just people coming up here for 3 minutes that get interrupted and don't even get their 3 minutes in. Thank you.
Public comments.
Sarah Moore, Fayetteville. I wasn't even going to speak to this, but there really was a mischaracterization earlier tonight in regard to the lawsuit that's been filed. It's been filed by the Arkansas Justice Reform Coalition. I'm the executive director of that. I'm sadly proud that we've had to file that. For years, we've talked to this body, and our community members have come to this body. 46 organizations, non-governmental organizations, asked for $30 million because they had done COVID relief work. We were told time and time again to be patient. We were told to come and bare our souls about the work that we were doing in the community. We, off the backs and sweat of people in the community, went out and had cookouts and got feedback from our community. We did surveys about where the need was in our community and brought that back to this body. There's lots of due diligence and good faith work that's been done to try to collaborate with our elected leadership to make sure that we are taking care of our community. I think it's a sad day that we get to this, but you know what? We only have so many processes afforded to us. And really, at the end of the day, we're all in community together. We have an opportunity to be able to take this $18 million and bring it back into community where it can really do the work. We say that arrest and incarceration is not giving us the result that we want, and then additionally know that we're digging ourselves a hole, not being fiscally responsible by continuing forward with using ARPA money. You know, both of those are pathways that are not sustainable. And so I hope that you'll think on that. And it's very unfortunate, and I hope that we can work together going forward to make sure that we are taking care of everyone in our community, no matter what their status, no matter what their viewpoint is, because we do all have to live together in one Washington County. Thank you.
Public comments. Seeing none, we'll be adjourned.